All right. I'm just gonna start getting going. Let's see what I can come up with here. Been thinking. All right, here we go. How cynical are I? Cynicism. Have I got this going on here? Got a little ticker going on here. I got a little bit of light. A little light shining on me. Not quite ready to be interrogated here, but I figured it was time to go live and say something. I've had busy weekend. I spent my weekend. I guess I should have the fucking microphone here. See if I can come up with a voice that people want to hear going out over the radio. And I see comments coming. PC is here. Welcome, Pragmatic Crystal. I hope that hurricane is passing you by. I know it is hitting mid-Florida pretty hard. I don't know if it's there yet. I've seen the diagrams, and I've been too wrapped up in my own life to pay attention to what else is going on out there in the world. But some things you can't avoid. But I wanted to have a conversation today for people that are up for it. And this is going to be maybe interesting. And if people are interested, I'll have them come in and talk. PC's here. It looks like I don't know that I ever see PC come in and talk live, but she's so busy modding everybody's channel. I don't know if she'd have time. I have recently been given some mod duties over at Maya Atkinson's channel. I want to pronounce that right. She made a point of bringing up the fact that it's not the name you expect. That happens sometimes, right? People have a name that's very similar to a name that you've heard a bunch of times before, and you read the wrong name. And also, I want to point out Maya's name, and I believe Maya is the correct pronunciation from everything I've heard. Some people go with Maya, which is a perfectly good pronunciation. I just don't believe Maya's pronunciation is such a way. Anyway, she's giving me some moderating duties over there, and it's been fun. I always like going there, and I've been up late. Watching that a few Sundays in a row, and I've been making bingo. So if you like bad science, and you like hearing people that know what they're talking about tear it to shreds and just have a good time and laugh. And sometimes drinking is involved. I'm not a drinker myself. I've been sober for, geez, I don't know how long now, but a long time. A long time. Well over 22 years. I think 23 years. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Hey, Robin, good to see you. Another fellow trucker in here. Maybe Robin will have some input. So what came up on the weekend is a friend of mine from the patient advocacy world posted that she was going to go check out this free online seminar. You can show up. And I was like, yeah, that looks really good. I was scrolling through it. They're going to have a bunch of speakers there. And it looks like a lot like what we see in that sphere. So I suspect many people that watch me don't do that. When you get into medical conferences and the like, generally what you'll have is it's a little dry and boring most of the time. In person, there'll be maybe like a hotel type thing. Hey, Tori, good to see you. You're at a hotel conference area. Depending on the size of the conference, it might be like a whole hotel, a half of one. In bigger cities, there might be 5 or 6 conferences in the same facility. In smaller places, you're gonna have you might be the only game in town. You might have the whole hotel booked up with what's going on. When it's online, it's a little more difficult. Generally speaking, though, the in-person ones are not going to be a major con job these days. And also they're ones where they're hosted by organizations that I know, and those organizations vet people. And there's conversations about vetting people. When we have someone come and speak, and if we don't like what they say, or they're saying something that's contrary to what medical science says is the right thing to do, we have conversations about it, and the person might not be invited around the next time. it's it's not something that I'm directly involved in, but it's something I'm tangentially involved in insofar as someone might mention something to me or someone else say, "Hey, what did you think of this?" And we'll have like these sort of debrief meetings and we'll get together and talk. And so sometimes somebody will be present something, you're like, "No, that person, they're a little too close to a snake oil salesman." And Tori, I'm glad you're here because I met Tori over in DC stream. And it's there's an intersectionality here. There's always intersectionality. But I was looking through this thing that my friend posted up, and I was like, I'm really skeptical of this. And I looked, and there were very few, if any, negative comments. They were hard to find. And it was hosted by, I think it was the only place there was any information about it was the thing itself, advertising it. And then there was all this stuff about, and I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do a stream about them because I don't know enough about them. I'm still skeptical, but my friend did go and check it out and got some decent information from them. It looked pretty good. It may be a mixed bag. This particular organization seems to me what they do is they charge people money to come and sell their wares, if you will. Um, so if you're a doctor or some sort of a person that like maybe you've written a book, maybe you're like a physiotherapist, you've written a book about how to help people living in a large body. So you want to like sell that to people living in a large body, and then it's advertised to patients and other people in the business as a place you can go and have this sort of online seminar. And I gather it's this week someday. I can't remember the timing of it. And it really doesn't matter. And I don't want to throw these people under the bus because I don't know if they deserve to be under the bus. But my friend did go check out the website, and there are some really good pieces of content in there. And she's probably going to give us more of an update. And she just said, "Hey, this looks interesting." And we have this sort of, it's a private sort of online chat group. And if you're a person that lives in a larger body, whether you're in Canada or not, you don't have to be in Canada to participate. Let me know, and I will hook you up with just reach out to me privately in Discord, or something like that, or whatever. Send me a message. I'll hook you up with this organization where we have people to get together and have conversations as patients, but we also patients get a chance to engage with the industry. So I'm going to talk about something that I've seen coming up. I believe this is something there's kind of two or three times of the year where the I'm going to call it the weight loss industry goes into high gear. And there's three major ones that I see. There's the New Year resolution. So you'll see most of December and then like the day after Christmas, which we call Boxing Day here. Day after Christmas, you will not be able to turn on your phone, your television, your radio, or whatever without somebody selling weight loss and gym shit. Gym memberships, like January 1st, that's the day to go to the gym. People make New Year's resolutions. That's a great idea. If it works for you. If it doesn't, today is the first day of the rest of your life, as they say. If you're going to change something, change it right now. And if it's something you need to plan to make all the changes, start making the plans right now. I'm making plans to change things, and I got some bad news last week. I don't know if I've streamed since then. The bad news is that my lungs have not recovered tremendously well. They've done well. They're progressing. I'm on the right track, but it's going slow. There's no reason to think it's not going to get better. It's just not getting better quick. I was literally expecting to get better by now. Hey, Bree, good to see you. Another great creator. Bree's channel is amazing. Bree, I should figure out how to make you a mod because I think I'm a mod over at your channel. And I know you'd make good decisions. People don't usually do too much shit disturbing here. Or if they do, PC's so all over it that I don't see it. But I think I would see it like I do when I'm a mod other places. I'm gonna continue on with this conversation. And like I said, if people want to come and talk about it, if anybody here has been the victim of any of this stuff, you may be cynical like I am. So I saw this thing and I'm like, it almost seems like the way they're selling this that you have to sign up, you have to pay money to share, and you have to pay money. It's free, but you have to give your credit card, and then there's like this monthly subscription, and they keep charging you for it in terms of being the receiver of the information. And that's really weird because usually what happens with these things is, yes, you pay to go see Yeah, it could be kind of scary. Yeah, and that's what Tori, that's what I was thinking, right? I put this up here. StreamYard has been weird, but I think I don't want to jinx it, but I got rid of the other thing, the Streamlabs thing. I just deleted it from my son's computer, and that seems to have gotten rid of my camera issues. There's absolutely zero negative reviews, or very, very few negative reviews. It could very easily be kind of sketchy. Yeah, it's like there's this particular thing. It was like 99% positive reviews. You know what? I very seldom feel like I can give something a 5-star review. It's usually a 4, 4.5. And when I see something that's 3 or 4, I read the reviews and I read about why people have reviewed it the way they have. I read the negative reviews. Positive reviews I don't care about as much. The negative reviews, I want to see what people are saying. If the person had a shitty experience with it, I'm like, okay, is this person a difficult person? Or are they expecting something that isn't reasonable? So you read through it. A lot of these things will allow the other person to respond. Now, this particular thing, I could only find one place where people were really talking about it, and it was I don't like it when Google arranges things or people have arranged Google in such a way because I think that's what really happens that I can't really get real information, because people will talk about this stuff on Reddit and Quora and stuff like Reddit and Quora. I don't trust very much for reviews, but I sometimes like if somebody like has on Reddit, sometimes you get like one of these rabbit hole ones. Please be careful on Reddit. The rabbit hole goes on and on and on. We may never see you again. Um, yeah, these trails that you can go down are wild. But I was thinking about some of the stuff I've done and some of the stuff that's been sold to me, and the shit people say to me all the time about living in a large body. And I gotta say, we were away for the weekend. We celebrated Mrs. Trucker's birthday. It was fantastic. It was nice to go away. We went up to her family's place. So it was just the cost of gas to travel up there. And since we're more than out of money, it was a good way to get away. We never got to do any of the family trips we were going to do over the summer. We were going to do a couple of things. My wife and daughter did get away for a weekend with my father-in-law, which was nice. And we've got Thanksgiving coming up here, Canadian Thanksgiving. So this is a time of year. So the other 2 times a year, yeah, it's talked about New Year's resolution. There's also back to school season, which is now like August and September. They're kind of gone, but that's a time when you see a lot of people like, get back into the swing of things, join the gym, you're going to school, like you're going to college. It's time to, you get the back to school shit is like buy some new clothes, join the gym, start a new diet regimen, whatever. You'll see some of that. And then the other thing you'll see is, and this will start in May, June, sometimes April, it's the beach body season. And I think there's even isn't there like Tori, if you're still there, isn't there like an MLM that's called Beach Body or Body or something? I've heard DC talk about that. That's one where I think they sell mostly supplements and lifestyle. Okay, MLM isn't my jam. I've never bought into an MLM. I've met and know people that have bought into them. Yeah, I agree, Tori. I agree. You get when it's a 50-50, like when it's a mixed bag, it's like, okay, that's a real company. No real company has 100%. Everybody loves it. That just doesn't sound right. Some people have a bad experience. You want to aim to be better, but yeah, when I see, yeah, okay, it does still exist. Okay, so that's the body one. So I'm not going to go into the specifics of that. I really don't like the MLM model. I've talked about this before. I'm gonna say this. It exists. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tori, for letting me know that that's still a thing. There's something that happens when trying to sell stuff to people living with obesity, living in a larger body, or it could be anything, right? And I've been down a Reddit rabbit hole that I need to stop going down. And it's one where people that have been successful at weight loss and body composition changing are posting before and after photos. And I love them. I'm proud of those people. I'm happy for them. They do all sorts of things. They also communicate about how they've done it, what they've done. Ones that have had like surgery and stuff, it like usually they're like straight up, yeah, I did this. I had a bariatric surgery. They'll say which one they had. They'll say how long it's taken. I appreciate and love that shit, but it is maybe it's not that they're toxic, it's just it's kind of a toxic behavior to scroll through them and look at them because there's 2 things I'll look at, and I'm gonna be way too honest. I look at people like myself, like someone who has my body type, what they correct to, and I really, really am like, "Why the fuck can't I do that?" That is like, I'm so amazed that person has done that. And then I catch myself doing something else. And this is like I'm saying, this is over honest here. I catch myself thinking that there's something more attractive about the people that have lost weight. And I don't like that about myself. I feel like that's a stigma and bias that's like ingrained in not just me but everyone. And I internalize that as well. And so this idea that the person has somehow like super improved themselves. And there's a lot of that, and hey, Rochelle, good to see you. Hey, Commander, good to see you too. I I don't like that about myself. I don't like looking at the women and thinking they've become somehow more attractive because I can look at them and see that they were attractive before, like, this change in their body may be healthier for them, and maybe better for them in general. Life in a smaller body, I've never had one, but I suspect it's easier. It's easier to sit on an airplane, it's easier to walk down the street, it's easier to buy clothes that fit. I was in a smaller body, and I had to buy the biggest stuff in the store or the smaller stuff in big and tall shop. But now I'm a 5'6" XL kind of fit. Um, that's not you're not going to buy that in a regular mall, right? There might be some malls will have the big and tall style shop, but there's a couple of different ones out there. I can't remember the names of the ones in the States off the top of my head because I've only been there a few times. But in Canada, and they're owned by the same company. That's the other fucked up thing. We have George Richards and we have um, Mr. Big and Tall, and there's a couple of other smaller ones that just don't have that many locations. But yeah, Mr. Big and Tall is kind of my go-to, and it isn't because I'm all that tall. But yeah, I know finding big clothes is hard. And this is like this shirt I have, the Willie Nelson shirt. I don't know if you can see it. It's from, and they have a line of t-shirts, and I appreciate that, right? Because like when you go to like a concert, like the biggest shirt they're gonna have is like XL, 2XL. And you go to a concert, you wanna buy a shirt, you want to buy something to memorialize it, like you see a band you love or something. I can't do it. I look at them and I'm like, oh, I wish I was smaller, or I wish this was bigger. I wish I was something different. And so what happens is these companies that do weight loss stuff, it's a great idea to make yourself healthier. It's a great idea to eat good food. It's a great idea to control your portions if that's something you suffer with. If you have some sort of binge eating disorder or anything like that, please seek help from mental health professionals because those are real mental health issues. And we do tend to live in a world where this stuff is hard. But these companies and the ones that I've directly interacted with, I know more about, but I see a lot of them. And I think some of them have disappeared. I haven't looked them all up, but I think of things like Herbal Magic, Herbal Life, the Dr. Bernstein Clinic. I think Dr. Bernstein was actually someone successful for some people, and so like I'm not throwing these people under the bus. I'm saying these are things you see ads for, and they're a little bit predatory on the mindset of someone like myself, someone that looks at like this weekend. I don't know why there was a little bit of activity, not as much as we'd usually have going up to the cottage. We'd usually go for a nice walk. The autumn leaves are coming in. It's we're getting into October here. We're a little further north. There were more leaves changing there than here, but they're starting to change here too. We're getting the cooler weather. We're getting into like weather where you can wear a sweatshirt for me, maybe a light jacket for regular people. Um, it's nice. And then when it was raining, I brought my riding jacket, which is like a weatherproof, wind and rainproof sort of jacket. And I've been wearing that partly because I just want to get it and ride. And I think I'm going to try to go for a short ride today, like a really short one. But I need to go to the drugstore at some point. But maybe I'll like slip by there. I don't know. I can't decide what makes sense. I know my wife was gonna go do some groceries and stuff on the way home from work. I'm feeling so tired. I'm physically worn out today. I don't know. I stayed up late to watch Bad Science Sunday. I made the bingo card for it. I love doing the bingo card. If people are up that late, it's 9:30 Eastern. It starts on a Sunday night. It's a fun time over there. I'm usually going to bed. I sometimes will go in and just say hi. Ember has a great show. She had who the fuck did she have on? Was it JL Warren she had on last night? I only saw like a little bit of it. I was doing some prep for that. Oh, Rochelle, like absolutely, absolutely. This is, you see a lot of this, and you see this, like, you see it everywhere. PC, it's good to see you. I'm gonna ramble on a little bit, and then I'll post a link in case anybody wants to come in and have a little online chat. I'm not gonna do this for too long because I do have to go. Yeah, I'll probably wrap this up in about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. As people know, I ramble on quite a bit. Um, I I'm at the point now where my friend posted this thing. Oh, that's great, Commander. Please, if you don't know Brentley on Punk Apostate, so Commander, you're gonna go on there on October 27th. That's not too far away. That's great. That's great. Yeah, Brentley, great member of the sort of atheist community, the punk community. I don't know if I qualify as a punk. I might be a little too clean cut to be a punk, but I'm a biker, trucker, bad motherfucker, that's me. But I have some intersectionality with punk culture. Oh, thank you, PC. That is wonderful. See, when I say like I said that yesterday in one of the channels, if PC was a diesel, she'd be a cat C15. Just absolutely, you know, perfect, purring like a kitten, got everything running just like it should. So yeah, Brentley is a hoot and a half. Yeah, yeah, I know, Brett. You're right. You're right there. Rochelle, I agree. Yeah, Brentley's fun. Um, I I've been thinking about just how hard it is to keep your mind in check, and how hard it is to keep your mind in check when people and companies are just bringing you bullshit. And we have this terrible stigmatized look towards ourselves sometimes. And it's amazing to me some of what I see out in the world. It's I'm going to say this. I feel like when I watch certain people interact with the world who have exceedingly high self-esteem, it seems like they're putting on like a big fucking show. And it's not a show I enjoy. And then you have people like myself that maybe have like super low self-esteem because I have this idea in my head, and this is maybe just my own problem. Maybe this is something I got to work out in therapy some more. And I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I somehow feel like I'm an okay person. I'm not like way below average intelligence. I'm not a mean motherfucker. I'm not being like a total asshole to people. And people don't barf when they see me, but I'm not super great looking or anything. But I actually feel like if I was just a normal sized person, like not living with obesity, not being a person who's been over 400 pounds and all that stuff, you know, if I was just normal in this one way, like everything would be okay. And my whole life would just be better. If I just, I've said this before, and this is gross. So like trigger warning. I've said before, like if I could just have some special fucking lightsaber or a fucking sword or a knife or something, a scalpel that can just cut off my giant belly and a little bit of extra adipose tissue I have and put the skin back and just let me be a regular average person, that then all of a sudden my life would be great. That would make me like a fucking normal person. I'd just blend in and I wouldn't be this. I wouldn't be a big fucking mutant. But that's something that, like, intellectually, like, that's not who I am. I'm not this is a cliche thing. People aren't fat. They have fat. Everybody has fat. You need it to live. PC, this is like I'm not good at taking compliments, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, PC. And you're beautiful too, but much more beautiful, in fact. PC's a beautiful, wonderful person. And and this is Rochelle. Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate the love, you know. Um oh, okay, is this what's coming up, Commander? I want to make sure people come to Commander's show. I always miss it because we're always out doing stuff. And this week I popped in to say hi, but we're doing the birthday thing with my wife there. Yeah, that is fun. You know what, Crystal, I know that. I know you do. I know you do. And you know what I tremendously appreciate. I tremendously appreciate the fact that people do love me and appreciate me. I have people in my family, friends in real life, and I have some really good connections with people online here. You know, I have a couple of people that I consider really good friends, and other people who are maybe they're more like acquaintances, but I just think very highly of them, and the conversations I have with them give me the real sense that they're great people. And there's people that come here so often, and I do feel that kinship, that friendship, you know. And there's people who I don't know anything about them, you know. I've never seen a picture of them. I don't know if they're big or small or short or tall. I don't know how much melanin they have in their skin, and I don't give a shit. I don't know if they're male or female or anything in between, gender fluid, whatever it is, their sexual orientation. All that shit doesn't matter at all because you can have really interesting conversations with people without knowing fuck all about them. And I think there's something to that, right? If you just hear the ideas and realize this is a fellow human being, right? You know, if your fellow human being is there and they have something to say, they have a life experience that says who they are and why they are the way they are. And really this is the crux of what I came to reading through what my friend posted this morning. And again, I would get like if I knew this was like a bad company, I would like dig into them and I'd tear them to pieces. But I don't wanna do that because I don't think that's the case. I think it might be sort of a mixed bag. And the thing is the people I think in a lot of ways, like, the people like doctors and educators that wanna come and say, like, "This is research we're doing, and we wanna share it," and patients who wanna understand what's going on with their bodies. I heard something new I'll talk about in a second, but, that I gotta look into this more because it was something I'd heard before, but I didn't realize the research might be out there. I've got people that'll help me find it. And this is what really really hit me going through this whole thing is that I'm so cynical that if somebody says they've got something that'll help me lose weight or that'll help me understand obesity, my knee jerk reaction is no, you fucking don't. You know, I absolutely feel like that's the first thing on my mind. Thank you, PC, for posting my read essay. I read it out loud, and then the conference. Yeah, it was from the OC conference. There's a video of me speaking at a conference. I did speaking at a conference about it was a week ago today. It was an online one hosted by Obesity Canada. It was not an open forum type thing. There was an by invitation, and I was honored to be invited to come and speak my mind on a couple of things. I got a chance to participate multiple times and a chance to speak to the broader group on a couple of occasions, and people there were really good to me. So this is when it's real. Patient participation is absolutely desired, and it became the forefront. So I think other patients experienced the same thing. I think they gave me too much time. Honestly, I could have talked for longer. Um, they were extremely respectful of what I had to say and my opportunity to say it. And they understood that I was coming at this from a position of weakness in my disease, but strength in my experience because I've lived with this disease for decades now. It's it's something that's affected me pretty much solidly since right around when I entered puberty, which was probably about 11 or 12 years old. So I'm nearly 50. I'm 48 years old now. There's a lot of injustice in the world. There's a lot of things that ain't right. And yeah, I talk about what affects me. I talk about what affects me. I'm putting the link in here. If people are up to talking, want to talk, I'll talk with people for another 20 minutes or so. I see people posting things here, and yeah, and I want to say something here. Okay, I'm going to say this. Okay, I thanked my friend for the update, and I'm just going to say this because I wrote it out when my head was a little clearer. I'm feeling pretty tired. It seems to me that we are all perhaps a bit jaded by the barrage of companies and individuals hell bent on taking our money and leaving us feeling like failures. The cycle of false hope and terrible information mixed with inborn ignorance, biases, and stigmatization of our group generally has made for a minefield of carers and couldn't care less about us folks. We don't know which is which. Not everything is a scam or too good to be true, but sure does feel like it sometimes. And I'm really glad that what my friend posted was better than that. And what I also said was maybe we should invite some of the individuals involved. They were real doctors and stuff that were speaking and offering their wares. Some of them are selling books and shit, right? That's okay. Yeah, and this is Tori. I want to. This is an excellent point. This is an excellent point. And you know what? I'm gonna go. This is something because I don't have anything right in front of me. This drug has not been tested or evaluated by the FDA label in the U.S. Yeah, you know, and this is like so. Rochelle's in the U.S. I'm pretty sure. That's where Rochelle is. So Rochelle's their FDA is the Food and Drug Administration, I believe, is what that's called. I'm not in the U.S., so I don't know. I don't know how the U.S. works. I know how Canada works, right? Anyway, I wanted to share what I wrote there. Is just a little response, but just the reason I bring it up is not because it was an excellent piece of writing, right? It was just I wrote it down, and sometimes when I write things down, my thoughts come out a little clearer than when I ramble out of my mouth hole here. So you know, I haven't seen anybody come in. So like, it may be that people aren't able to or don't want to, which is fine. And as you know, I'm perfectly capable of filling airtime with my voice. And talked to my sister on the weekend, and she thinks I should start up a YouTube channel and make a whole bunch of money. Oh, Commander is here. I'm gonna bring Commander in just a second. I'm just gonna say this one thing while I'm preparing to do that is that I learned last week from the nurse practitioner at my doctor's office that there is good research available that shows that fat cells gained in childhood are much harder to get rid of because you can't get rid of them. You can only shrink them. And you can, this is something I want to look into. I've heard this before. I heard that like 20 years ago that they were looking into that. I want to see where the research is on that because it may indicate something about childhood obesity and the experiences that are there. So here we go. Here's Commander. Can I make this is this a better setup? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I just got up after 12-hour shift, and that's wearing on me. Going to be moving back to Virginia pretty soon. You just need to make sure I get my medical certificate for the CDL renewed, and then we're good.
All right. Yeah, and do you have to switch your CDL to the new state that you moved to, or is that like not a big deal?
It's not a big deal. You just go there and you go to the DMV and you give them an address inside the state, and you know, everything transfers.
Yeah, okay, so you don't have to like I mean, I
Then
realize you're doing your medical, but you don't have to do a medical every time you move to a different state or anything.
No, you just gotta do that every time you, well, I'm not changing employers, but they just want that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool, yeah, and yeah, Commander also is a professional truck driver. For those that don't know them, they do some great content. Deep State Annex, and I saw you posted on your Discord that the numbers are doing really well, and it's a lot of fun. So, that's kind of a point and laugh is the way you put it, Commander. And I missed most of the last one, but you were doing Ray Comfort, who's sort of an evangelical kind of guy, and you've done some flat
Yeah.
Earth and some conspiracy theorists and stuff. Which, I mean, Ray Comfort kind of he thinks there's a conspiracy to send us to hell. So yeah, tell us about it.
Well, in this case, I didn't watch the whole video all the way through and I got nervous and I started to reveal a video that I was doing. But since the video is kind of like dealing with heavy stuff that the algorithm doesn't like, it didn't do so well. In other words, Ray Comfort is what's known as a capos, where by which he knows better when he's endorsing Trump. And I played
Mm.
video of him basically in 2013 explaining how the World War II bad guy, the bad mustache man who started it,
Oh yeah,
hoodwinked the churches.
gotta watch out for that
And
guy. Yeah,
I'm using the code word so not to mess
yes.
up your channel.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, unfortunately, and I like, I'm promoting being nice and kind to people. But we also like I'm also today I'm talking about skepticism, I'm talking about cynicism, right? So, like is it fair for us to, look at Ray Comfort and say, well, you're using believers to extort money out of them, because you're going to help them somehow find the keys to heaven and avoid the gates of hell when it comes to death, because you've got the list of the bad shit they do. And he's I mean, he's a terrible character in general, but I'm not surprised, and yeah, I appreciate the fact that like these folks will bring up the bad behavior of some of the most heinous people in history as some sort of a reason to send them money and spend time listening to what they have to say. And
Well,
and so I'm skeptical too
in
of
this
anyone in religion. I'm skeptical of because of stuff like that.
in this case, it was a video from 2013 where he understood what was happening. And you can tell today he understands, he just doesn't care.
Uh,
And then it goes into the what I call batshit squared. You take one religion, Christianity, and then you take another religion, theosophy, and then you have people who are into the theosophy and basically infiltrating it, Christianity, and making it even crazier than it already is. I played a video of a Christian nationalist. Basically, he's the hatchet preacher talking using the same language that spirit science does. And
oh yeah, that's
then
that
I'm,
demonic Iggle Piggle guy, right? That's what I think he looks like.
yeah.
He's like a little blue goblin. Um, and he reminds me of the kids show Iggle Piggle where they have the Pontypines and they have like sort of a British sounding narrator. And the characters don't really talk. The Pontypines make little noises. Anyway, thankfully my kids are beyond watching that because that show drove me nuts. Jordan from Spirit Science is a wacko, right? Like, and um, it's
Yeah.
entertaining because it's wacky, but some people are taking the wacky and they're like, no, this isn't wacky. This is the way I should live my life. You know?
Well, his entire channel is basically cotton candy rainbow nonsense, but he's a horrible person. He
Mm,
has videos up there telling people why take the Western science medicine that's proven to work when you can take psychedelics.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You
you
know,
know what?
it's like saying the
It's ridiculous.
mushrooms are
Yeah.
better than cancer drugs.
Yeah, and I've encountered some of that, and obviously, I want to make clear that we're not saying that. We're saying that's not it. It's not good to get your medical information from randos on the internet, and not even from me. The information when I put stuff out, I honestly believe that I'm giving a good information that's well researched because I get the information from people that are vetting papers and then showing me what they say, or things that I've worked on directly myself and doing my own research, not on YouTube, but like actually going out and doing. I'm a co-author on a paper where we developed a survey that was meant to take real life picture of people living across the country and how they're affected by living with obesity, and especially where it intersects with them getting medical care, and asking real questions about their care, and getting a big enough sample to actually see what the care is like. And it was a couple of years ago, so it's slightly dated, but it's quite recent information. And so when I speak about information we gathered in that study, it's a published scientific paper, and it was well done, and it was done with a number of PhDs on our committee, and as well as a bunch of other people from many walks of life, including patient partners and other researchers and professionals. It was a really well done study, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And so when people like this come on,
Always
like this
get
guy's
your
saying, like, take some magic mushrooms and all of a sudden you're not going to have cancer. Well, if that happens, that is just the weirdest fluke ever, because I don't believe there's any studies correlating this. And if there are, they're not very well done or well researched, right? Maybe it's worth looking into.
and I really don't think that there you see, if you take the mushrooms and you don't have cancer, that means you're probably dead and cancer can't live in you anymore because you're dead. But the
Yeah.
mushrooms don't do anything outside of give you trippy visions. Always
Yeah.
listen to your doctor. And
Yeah.
it's that
Absolutely. Get
entire
medical
site is
advice. Yeah. Yeah. Get your medical advice from
that
medical
entire
professionals, good ones. And if you don't believe what they're saying, go get
that
second opinions are a thing, right?
that entire channel, Spirit Science, it's if you put Jordan in charge of the world, billions of people would die because he
Yeah.
wants to end industrial farming.
Yeah, and okay, this is one of those things where, and I'm gonna go on like a mini rant about this, because I live in farm country, right? And so there's like industrial farming is a thing. This is something that people may not like, but is a fact of life. What we have now in terms of being able to use the land to produce crops, in terms of edible plants and edible animals, livestock, and edible byproducts of animals, so things like honey and milk and eggs and whatnot. There are huge corporations running all of that. I have opinions about that. I don't know that we're well served by having no competition. Like, when capitalism turns into like just a couple of companies collecting all the money at the top because they bought out everybody in the business, we don't have competition. We don't have genuine competition. And the only way to get it is to be rich enough to afford to buy stuff from little boutique places, some of which may be forced to buy their stuff from these big corporations anyway. It's very hard to circumvent this. There's lots of little places that pop up with these farmers markets and stuff, and they're fantastic. And the food tends to be slightly better quality, slightly fresher, and we go to it when we can, but it's significantly more expensive, and it's fairly inconvenient because it's only like 1 day a week, and it's only certain months of the year. That may be different in other geographic locations, because like people just don't want to set up tents in the snow when it's like -30. That's the problem here. Um, you're not gonna get people from 2 to 5 in the afternoon on a Thursday. But that's the other thing, is these things are set up to be at a time of day where, like, my shift doesn't allow me to go to those things. I'm gone to work long before they open. I come back, an hour or two after they close up shop. My wife sometimes can slip by, and we try to avail ourselves of it. But it's not always possible. And it's an extra trip, right? Like it's going to a place that, like, you maybe don't need to do other errands right then. Um, yeah, no, and Tori, this is an excellent point here. Going back to this medical stuff, is respectable doctors, nurse practitioners are actually okay with people getting second opinions on their diagnoses. That's absolutely right. And in fact, this is something you may not realize. And I got to know this while I was in the hospital, because I had something they couldn't figure out what was going on with my lungs. They were talking to other people. The doctors there were like, I have my suspicions of where we're going here. I'm going to get yet another specialist in here. The main doctor that was in charge of my care told me, what her basic understanding was. But she's like, I've got more specialists coming to see you. This is not going away quickly. We are getting infectious disease specialists. We're getting a respirologist, I think is what they call them, but basically a lung doctor and a like someone who studies medicine and then specifically starts honing in on infections that people get that are from like outside things. And I had this microbe living in my lungs that was fucking me up, right? But it wasn't one that they usually see. It's one they've heard of before. It wasn't one they didn't have a cure for even, but it wasn't what they were expecting. And multiple opinions came in, and when it ended up that they switched from one person to another, because that's just the way the shifts work at the hospital. Someone came in and fixed it for me. They figured it out. But if I had just taken dropped some acid or took some fucking weird mushrooms, I don't think my lungs would be better.
Exactly.
And I might have died, like I'm not sure, honestly, whether I would have continued living without medical intervention, because I was having a lot of trouble getting air into my lungs. And I'm not sure if my body had what it took to fight off that infection with its own natural immunity things, like the antibodies that live in the body. I'm not sure if my body could have survived. I don't know if I could have kept breathing long enough for my body to figure it out on its own, right? We're lucky to live in an era of
Oh,
modern medicine.
yeah, it's kind of like, and people abuse the antibiotics, and we're coming to they haven't actually developed any new antibiotics in a really long time, because yeah, there's very little money in it, because it's like a medicine that basically is going to be dirt cheap when you bring it to market, because of the numbers of units required and stuff. So they haven't made any more. And people keep abusing antibiotics by not taking the full course,
Mm.
right? Or just putting antibiotics in consumer soaps rather than just like or cleansers rather than just letting the chemicals do it. They add antibiotics, and it creates a the antibiotic resistant germs.
Yeah, I know, and that's a major problem. And of course, I don't think Commander and I are both truck drivers. We're not doctors, but I think I can tell you should follow the advice of your doctor and pharmacist when it comes to antibiotics. And do not just take it until you feel better. Take every one of them, because there can still be shit inside you fucking you up. I believe that's the medical term for it. You want to take it all, and you don't want to have like a weakened um, bacteria in your body eating away at you, that the only ones that survive are the ones that don't get killed by that thing. They build up a resistance, and then they move to another part of your body or to someone else in your friend and family group or whatever. And then we don't have medicine that'll kill it. And you know what, Commander, I don't know enough about pharmaceutical industry. I'll take at face value what you've said. Because I don't have anything to say to back that up, or or to refute it, but it does sound like one of the areas of medicine where there's not a ton of money because they've already figured out some stuff that works. And like you say, I mean, once you get to the point of generics, if you don't have something like majorly new that you can patent and get like I can't remember what the timeline is, but it's something in the neighborhood, I think, of 5 to 10 years, where the government basically allows the pharmaceutical company to be the only one selling their product. And it takes a lot of time and money. I do respect and understand pharmaceutical companies have problems for sure. I'm not saying they're perfect by any means, and some of them are better than others. But I want to say about the pharmaceutical industry, they're a necessary thing, and I hope that they develop more ethical practices as we go along, and that ethics become part of corporate culture, across the board, not just in pharmaceuticals. But when they do studies and put the money into it, it's very time consuming and expensive to go from something that looks promising to something that's on the market. And I also wanted to say, just getting back to the comments about Blue Boy there, um, Jordan. And I haven't been following his channel carefully by any means. And I know you've covered him, and other content creators in our group here have looked at him. He's a weirdo. The thing is, if you're believing what he says, and there are reasons to believe, because there's like, it's one of those things where it's a little bit true. There are plants and chemicals that are found in nature that are helpful for or will change things about your body. And sometimes they can help promote an immune system, and sometimes they can just promote general health. And eating good food is good for you. Like, some people will say, good food is medicine, and I get what they're saying. It isn't, not in terms of like actually curing disease per se, but it could help prevent, and it can help bolster your body and bolster your immune system by having a well-fed body. And by well-fed, I mean not overfed. I mean fed with good nutrients, right? This is something that's really important. And when pharmaceutical companies find something like, and what I'm getting at is, I'm not saying this is true. What I'm saying is, other plants have been found to have chemicals in them that are helpful and protective or curative for certain diseases. And so when someone says, well, if you eat this certain mushroom, your cancer will go away. People with no hope, people living with cancer that have something that they're not sure how to treat, might give it a shot. And that's preying on someone's desperation is fucked. And I feel like that happens a lot when, when I talk about the weight loss community. Um, the ones that are trying to sell something to get money out of people that are just desperate to change the shape of their body. And like I said, like, I hate myself for judging myself and others as better when they're smaller, right? That's not some I wish that wasn't in my brain, but it is. And the same thing is, like, if I had cancer, I would want to not have cancer. I don't want my life to be extra short. I want to see my children finish school and go on to have careers and families if they want them, or just, partners in their lives, whatever it is that makes them happy. I want to see them get to that point in their lives. I don't want my life to end in the next 5 years. I'm 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 pretty much resolved to it ending in the next 25 to 30. That's probably where I'll make it to. But I'm not wanting to die early. If somebody had something, I might give it a shot because I want to make it work. I've given a lot of things a shot to lose my excess adipose tissue. And working with people that are trying to help me do that and help the world do that in a safe and practical way. I've met lots of people in the pharmaceutical industry, and I actually spoke at a conference last fall. It was about this time last year, and I had a quick about how there's a lot of misinformation and pseudoscientific bullshit and pop sci articles that make things look like something they're not. And we need to change that. But we had real researchers on the stage. I was sharing with them. I was like, these people are doing real research. They're finding things that actually change things. But they started this research 17 years ago, and we're just now getting to the point where a pill might go on the market. And so the money that goes into that has to be recouped by pharmaceutical companies. And their profit-driven motives maybe need to be looked at. Is that the real way to solve human health issues? Is profit the main thing that we should be concerned about? Is if we have
And
all of our
fun,
health driven by
fun,
money. Go ahead.
Fun fact is that a lot of pharmaceutical research is actually done by NASA because NASA has overlap. Like the health effects of weightlessness on
Mm,
astronauts. They get heart problems, bone problems.
yeah.
So I can't give you actual numbers, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of research, especially into osteoporosis and
Well, yeah, it makes sense, and I know
cardiovascular and
yeah, medical research is done in space for sure. That's 100%. And yeah, I don't know what pharmaceuticals they study in space, but yeah, it would be like the weightless style environment, which is, I mean, it's a weird way to put it. But yeah, like the without getting into like curved space time and gravity and stuff like that, the the state that you're in, your body doesn't have the stresses of gravity acting on it the same way. Like whereas we're used to like we're sitting in a chair, you know, gravity's holding our ass there, and our body on top of it is pushing into our butt, right? A lot of people that sit in a chair all day have like a sore back, right? I know it's a common problem for truckers and office workers. Ergonomics are a problem, right? Um,
right. And
and
you need those forces on your bones to basically cause your bones to want to fix themselves. Otherwise, the cells which dissolve the bone keep working, but the cells that deposit the bone don't because they're not getting any signals as to where to deposit the new material.
mm,
And then your bones waste away and the cardiovascular system suffers because it no longer has to pump against gravity. So the heart gets weaker and,
mm.
you know,
Yeah. That's really interesting.
and
That's okay. Brainless, you're right. Someone needs to do that. So, once is Slim live today? He is, right? Um, it might. We're still good, right? Commander, tell us a story, or did I turn it off?
tell us a story.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
I'm yeah. Like, just keep talking about that NASA stuff. Tell us something else about what NASA researches in space that you know about. Because I'm trying to find our buddy Slim so I can post his thing, the next show coming up.
um,
That'll be this afternoon, right? I don't think I'm gonna be able to come on, but,
yeah.
okay. Do they have upcoming?
NASA also
Uh,
is responsible for inventing a lot of manufacturing techniques.
what day of the
There
Oh,
was
yeah.
actually when I was at see, like for 3 months before the plague, I was at NASA Langley, and while there were parts that I didn't go into because I was in the basically making models for Saab because Saab runs, or at least at the time, I don't know now, ran the cryo wind tunnel and all the model stuff. Um, there was a machine where they could 3D print metal tools in space, and it was cool.
Oh, yeah, that is neat because like, you know what? That's a really interesting thing because with like, in space, you could take a toolbox with you and hope you have everything coming, right? But what if you encounter a problem you need to solve, and you just need to make something to solve it? And you know what you need, having like a 3D printer so you can just make the thing you need out of a metal, or because a lot of 3D printing is done with like sort of plastics, I think, right? Which is, and plastics are this whole thing, which I won't get into right now, because it's a lot. But I found out a little bit more about it because my daughter is doing um, different types of debates at school. Like that's part of their oral presentation work in French because she's doing French. study. She's been doing that since like grade 1 or 2 or whatever, whenever they started around here. It's a little different than what I grew up with. But they're learning how to, like, present their case in French. But one of the things they were supposed to debate about was about the use of plastics. Like, are they good or are they bad, or what is the government? Should the government start regulating the plastics industry?
Oh,
And I'm
they
drinking out of a
do.
plastic bottle.
For instance, that bottle. Oh, okay, you're unfrozen. Um, that
Okay. Oh, did
bottle
I
can
freeze?
only
Sorry.
be made from first run plastics. I don't think, at least I have not done machining or anything in manufacturing for a really long time. Obviously, I'm just
Mm,
mentioning the last job in manufacturing I had was
yeah.
before the plague. Um, but from memory, as far as what I know about plastics, you can't actually use recycled plastics in food containers.
Well, I don't actually know about that, 'cause
That's
there's like that bisphenol A stuff to worry about. This bottle says on it, bottle made from
it would have
100%.
to be a certain
Yeah.
100%. I would
Yes,
really, really
it's
check that
100%
because there were
post-consumer.
issues.
Post-consumer, what the fuck does that mean, post-consumer? But it says, "This bottle is made from 100% post-consumer recycled plastic." Um, I do I will what I'm gonna say is this bottle
Or
here
maybe since
from
it's intended one use, they might have different rules.
yeah, if it's,
Intended one
compared to, like, a
use, they might
reusable
have
one. Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
also there's issues for, exposure to light and heat and stuff like that for some plastics as well, right? Like,
Yeah,
some of them will
and
start
they
degrading and seeping into food. I'm not saying this one does that, but there are some issues. Oh, look at this PC. Like I said, she's like a C15. Everything you need to know about plastic grades. Better plastic. Okay, so that's cool. Thank you, PC, for that. We'll be looking into that. I wonder what happens if I see. This shows me I can show it. Okay, Pete or Pat. Okay, type of plastic commonly used in beverage bottles and food containers is one of the most widely accepted plastics for recycling. Okay, so I mean that's kind of a good thing, right? And we do recycle all this stuff. And it is a high density polyethylene. Is often used in milk jugs, juice bottles, and other is also widely accepted. Yeah, okay. So I mean, I guess the good thing is we're polyvinyl chloride is using pipes fittings is not often accepted for. Okay, so okay, when I say PVC and LD, low density
and then
polyethylene. Yeah.
there are other plastics that can't easily be recycled that are, well, PVC is one of them, but also, like when I worked in machining jobs, we'd have nylons that were injected with glass. We would have all kinds of plastics mixed with fibers and stuff. And it was
Mm,
impossible to separate the additives out of it, but they needed the additives. My favorite plastic to actually machine was Delrin.
hmm.
It's expensive,
Yeah,
really
is that a
expensive.
brand name?
A
It's a brand name, not a chemical name, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, because like I don't know what the actual chemical in, but it was a brand name.
Okay.
And Delrin is to give you an idea, last time I worked with it, if you had like a 2-inch diameter piece of round stock, a foot long, that would cost you over $100.
Yeah, I mean, that's not cheap, and I mean, metals aren't cheap either, but, like, they're a little bit more mainstream, there's maybe a little bit more competition on them too, right? But it makes sense that there's additives in plastics because plastics on their own, some of them have great strength, but a lot of times they get their strength from, like, how they're molded and depending what you're using them for. And metals are the same, right? Like, what I like my experience isn't in machining, it's more in construction. But you have to be very careful about what types of things you build with. And so a lot of times people are like, how do you size a pipe, or for a post, or how do you like an H beam, and then there's like the C-shaped steel and stuff. And so sometimes you have to put a few pieces together to get the strength you need, and sometimes you just need something really really heavy. I don't is this correct, Commander? I don't know if you can see this. Is Delrin, is it polyoxymethylene?
I
Methylene, I
do
think. Yeah.
not know.
Hmm.
Last time I worked with Delrin, Obama was still president.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, so it's been a while. Yeah, and you know what? And products like this probably are changing by the minute. And I think recycling is great, but like not buying things in packaging or like overly packaged stuff is great, but it's not always practical. Like for me, being out on the road, buying a case of pre-packaged bottled water that's there that I know is clean and usable is really handy for me. And I'm sure you find the same thing. Like having water at hand that you can drink is better than because if like this type of bottle here, if you go into like a gas station, you're gonna pay a few bucks for, maybe $2, $3 Canadian. But for $4 Canadian, I can buy a case of 24 of these at the grocery store. Um, Sometimes it's a little more expensive, but it's really cheap to buy water around here. And so, like, if for the cost of like one bottle on the road from a truck stop, I can put water in my truck and know I have fresh, clean water to drink. That puts me in a situation I'm pretty happy with. And if the
I usually
packaging is
have
recyclable,
soda. It's like you got one up on me because I know the soda is not as healthy as water.
yeah, no, it's got water in it
I
though.
will buy stuff in bulk.
Yeah,
Oh, I know. It's
yeah.
it's got the caffeine and
Oh
it's
yeah, the
got well,
caffeine.
I always do the diet, but
Yeah,
then there's some consequences for the preservatives and the I'm trying to remember there's actually when I did model rocketry, I did try like dried concentrated soda and it worked well
interesting. Yeah,
for fuel.
for fueling it. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, rocketry is an interesting thing. We probably don't have time to get like all the way into rocketry, but I do find model rocketry and other like real rocketry, like sending things to space is pretty cool. I'm into stuff like that. Um, so I'm gonna start wrapping this up because I've been doing this for over an hour and I am feeling pretty tired. And I want to see if I can go for a short ride and grab some stuff from town, but I don't know if that'll work or not. So here's what I'm gonna say. Because and thank you, Commander, for coming on. I'm just gonna wrap this up. You may have something you want to add to this. So I'm just gonna say I was watching something with my buddy Dr. Tap before Bad Science Sunday. We were on a Discord channel watching people that usually talk about flat Earth, and there's a guy that's come out there a few times, and he's been on a couple of different flat Earth debunkers channels talking about his solution for relativity. And oh, see you later, Brand. Let's have a good one. Maybe I'll be able to come by and watch a little bit of Slim Show, or even come on and say a few words. You know how tired I am, but gonna try to just put this in perspective here. Um, he was having this conversation, and people were asking questions, including Dr. Tapioca Weasel, who's a good friend of mine. He's like, "Hey, I'm having a conversation with this guy." I'm like, "That's the guy that talked to Professor Rob what is his name? Professor Parks, PhD. Great channel. I want to show that channel. And he also has a great Discord server with. It's not a ton of people in there. It's active with all sorts of great information. Um, yeah, Tori, I think that's in the same ballpark. Yeah, so Tap Vandy and I we chat fairly frequently, like a few times through the week, and we usually have a conversation either by text or even a voice chat on the weekend. He's like, "Hey, I'm in here talking to Mr. Slave." So Mr. Yeah, that's yeah, thank you very much, Crystal. That's Professor Rob Park. So he had a conversation with him because he was at work, and I'm like, Tap, man, like Rob's in there having a chat with this Mr. Slave guy. You should come and listen to what's going on here. And then he ended up talking to him too. And this channel's run by those of you that come often, and a lot of you do, um, would have maybe seen me debunking or talking about the debate that Lucas and Peter had with Alan from Space Audits and Shame, as MC Toon's been calling him. That's Shane. Shane, I don't know what Shane's last name is. These guys are just, I don't know what their deal is. They're a little deluded. They're a little unsure of what's going on. So this guy, he's figured out this thing. He calls it the rubber ducky ether theory that's going to solve everything. And he shows like a diagram of a duck moving as a wave through a wave. It's hard to tell. And he's trying to sort of reconcile quantum mechanics, special and general relativity, and everything we see in terms of physics, like where what they call attention is. I think that's the term they use in physics. And they're asking like really good questions, like what's the math and experiments you've done for this? And this is like, I'm interested in this because I'm really interested in physics. I like to make myself aware of some of these things. I am not a physicist, but Dr. Tapioca actually is. His real name, he says his real name all the time. He's Michael Vandergraaf. He is a PhD physicist. He works at Stanford. He does real work. I've talked to him about his work. I've looked at some of his papers with him. It's real fucking science he's doing. And he understands what's going on. Hey, Purple. Purple rhymes with orange. Purple is one of the best members of the community, and they have a channel where usually there's a Wednesday show. And if you don't know what to do with yourself on a Wednesday afternoon, well, it's afternoon here anyway, and I think they might be Central Time. Purple Rhymes with Orange is on, and yeah. Oh yeah, Maya Adkisson's channel is where you can catch Vandy. So Vandy and I've had some chats about physics and about what some of these tensions are. We haven't gotten deep into it. We usually talk about his stuff. 2 p.m. Central. Thank you so much. And Wendy, thank you for coming by. Good to see you. So this guy, he's being asked questions, and then so because I was watching that, I found him on YouTube where he's having a similar chat with somebody, because I don't have like a recording of this, but someone may have it recorded, so I'm gonna go back and listen to it and see what Tap said. Now Tap was like, he's not the craziest guy he's ever talked to about this kind of stuff, because he's willing to give people a chance to chat, and he chatted with some other guy who was even dumber in a way. But I was listening to this guy. He's breezing by the shit. Thank you for listening, Purple. Really, really love Purple Rhymes with Orange. They are amazing. And just a tremendous supporter of this whole community, and kind of an anchor point for us too. If you're gonna come up with something that deals with like all the issues with like getting a unified theory, and someone says to you, where's the math to show how you got here, to show that this unifies it? The answer shouldn't be, well, we don't really need math. I've used minimal math. That's a literal thing that came out of this guy's mouth. That is not an answer in physics. Even if you did use minimal math.
No, it isn't.
You'd have to present all the math that have been done on everything else, because if you're going to unify, like how to come up with a grand theory that unifies everything, that gets rid of like where the physics of the very large and the physics of the very small don't work exactly the same way, or at least if they do, it doesn't just pan out that way. We don't see it that way, right? I'm oversimplifying, partly because I don't have a good enough understanding of it to go more than oversimplifying, but also because explaining it in English is hard. Explaining like because where the problem is in mathematics. The problem is when you do the math for the one, you don't just plug in the other and get the same answer, which means something isn't quite right.
Here's what happens when you try to use the equations for quantum physics with relativity. Instead of having one infinity at the singularity, you'll have infinity infinities. That's basically a dumb way to put what happens.
Well,
That's not
fair
really
enough.
an
Like this,
answer.
and you know what? A lot of physicists that are speaking to lay people will just say the math breaks down. And you know what? And what you're talking about is the same kind of thing. And you know when you're doing like sort of basic calculus problems, and even more basic math than that, you come up with situations where like this doesn't exist. Like this thing you're looking for, it isn't there. Um,
There
that
are
is,
ways to get close to an answer
yeah,
that, oh, God, I'm thinking Euler's method. And I know that there are ways to get close to certain answers, but never quite get an answer. But it's been like since 2020 that I've taken a math course,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
I'd need to retake Calc 2, Calc 3, and DE. I can tell
yeah,
you that right now that I would need to retake that. I might be
yeah.
able to take Calc 1 while taking Calc 2, because that's usually how I did my thing. I'd forget one class. Be rusty in, like,
Yeah.
in Calc 2, I was relearning Calc 1 because I had skipped a semester, but I managed to get an A. So,
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm trying to
but
relearn. I'm trying to relearn and expand my mathematics knowledge right now, and it's tough. And my daughter's doing some higher level math, not higher than I ever did in school, but like higher than some other kids. She's in the more advanced math program. It's just a high school level, but it's getting my brain working. I'm trying to help her through it and make sure she knows what she's doing. And I know a little bit about how to do them, so I'm working through them. It's reminding me how rusty I am, but I am working on it. And I also want to say hello to Sumami and Dave, um, and and yeah, I said, did I say hi to Wendy? I think I did, but hello and welcome. Some people seem to end up showing up at the end of the show, but I know there's lurkers too that are just listening. Because I am trying to wrap this up in a reasonable amount of time so I can rest a little bit. I'm thinking about riding, but I may have to postpone it. Because I may just not have the energy to do it, and I'm not going to go out if I think I'm going to topple over because that would suck. Um, so yeah, when I listen to this stuff, right? When I listen to people say I don't need this answer, it reminds me a little bit about what's happening when people are like trying to sell something. And what it reminded me of, what came to my mind directly was a woman that my wife knows was promoting, not for herself but for a friend of hers, and it was just an acquaintance apparently, had bought into like an MLM style thing where they were selling like herbal solutions for like, if you take all these, I forget what the name of the company was, but I looked it up. They're a really terrible MLM style company, but she'd bought into this, and she's like, we have these products, like you just need to take this, you're gonna lose all this weight. I'm like, I know you don't know me, but like I have to lose like, 200 some odd pounds, and I've looked up the stuff you're selling. Like, where are your scientific studies? Where are your, like, where are the double blind clinical trials showing that this stuff has an effect on people? It isn't just a coincidence that some people in one group lost weight. Show me the clinical trials. She's like, I don't need that. I'm like, it really looks like, it's not you, but like you're selling snake oil here. You don't actually have something. And she was really mad that, and this isn't the person my wife knows. This is an acquaintance of a friend of my wife. And she's like, "You're calling me a snake." I'm like, "I'm not calling you a snake. I'm saying what you're selling is snake oil. I'm saying you've been duped because it was an MLM thing. They're selling this bullshit, and they had like a couple of like fit looking people that said they were the owners of the company. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Standing on the white background with the bottles of shit. And if you're asking somebody questions and they say they don't need proof of anything, they just hand your money over. And this guy, like, I mean, this guy's not asking for money for his unified theory, but he doesn't understand the questions that are being asked of him. And I'm not saying that the answer isn't an answer that has minimal math. That's possible. It's highly unlikely. But the only way you're going to get to that minimal math is to go through all the math that got us from where we were when we didn't know anything about this stuff to where we are now, where we have a great deal of information about quantum physics and about relativity, and all the stuff that goes with it. We also know that there are lots of things that happen at a small scale that do follow relativity. The math does work out. It's when you get into like the super, super small, the subatomic level, that things get really fucked up. And things are fucked up there. And it's not intuitive. We don't live
Oh,
in that world, right? Go ahead, Commander.
well, yeah. We do not live in the world of uncertainties, which is the world of the very, very small. And whenever someone uses the word quantum, like the blue spirit science thing, they don't know what they're talking about. Usually, quantum is just another word for blue.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, and I know there's also like there's a guy. I want to say the guy's name is Deepak something, who just spews a bunch of nonsense and people pay him
Deepak
millions of dollars.
Chokra.
That's it. Deepak Chopra. He's another one of those like swindlers. Now I'll tell you what quantum means. I don't have to look it up in the dictionary. This is what quantum means. You may be surprised to find out what this means. Quantum means an amount of something, a quantity. Um, when we say quantum in quantum physics, we're talking about the atom and below. So, um, I can't remember all the different pieces that there are, but there are quarks, and there are bosons, and there are and we apply labels to them that confuse people because we say that they're up and down quarks and that there are colors in some of the subatomic particles. And the thing is, we can't just shrink ourselves down to be smaller than those particles and hold them in our hands or look at them like, in some sort of a room and say, "Oh, this is what this thing is." I think a lot of us have the idea that the parts of an atom are just balls that are made of a color and they're connected by a wooden dowel because that's what you're presented with in high school and probably also in college and university courses that address atomic structure. But they tend to take the nucleus of the atom and make it just a tennis ball essentially, and then they stick other like ping pong balls to the outside of it, and they say the ping pong balls are the electrons, and the bigger like the tennis ball or a softball or something that size, and it's a model to give you an idea. But the way chemical bonding works, they're really good for that, right? Because they show you like these electrons will bond to like one atom bonds really well with another atom and makes a molecule, right? That stuff sort of makes sense when you start
They'll
digging
show
into it.
the holes in the shells, and it's a
Yeah.
way to help you think about it. If you
Yeah.
bring it into the 3D physical representation, it becomes much harder to visualize, and at some point, your brain can't actually visualize it. And the different shells have different shapes, and it's not really.
Exactly, yeah,
It's
there's some great
when
stuff on it.
when you see
Yeah.
when
Go
you
go ahead,
see
Commander.
what the most accurate representations of what different electron shells look like, it starts looking weird. It's not like
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
little balls anymore.
No, no, not at all, and so what and I might do a show about this because there's some great information on it might even be Minute Physics, the one that I used when I was talking about muons. They have some really great graphics, and one of the graphics that they use is fantastic, and I will maybe do, like, a little thing like that. I'm gonna see I know Tap's actually doing a show this week, I think, with, not to be confused with Vandy himself, but there's a gentleman named Vandalia, 1998, I believe, who's doing an interview style show with Dr. Tapioca Weasel, I think in the next week. I've got to double check with him. And I don't know how good Vandalia is at posting his shows this ahead of time because I think it might be on the following weekend. But regardless, yeah, he'll talk about what he does. And he does sort of understand quantum physics. But I'm going to see if I can drag him onto my show to talk quantum physics again. Maybe he'll get in the mood after going over to Vandalia's and having a chat there. Because he's had a chat here, and it was Thanksgiving last year when we did it. So we should do it again, and maybe get him to talk to us about this type of stuff. because he does have a tremendous understanding of it, and it's pretty cool. But you're right, Commander. It is our intuition about what it is fucked up by analogies that we tell to get one thing out, and then it all falls apart. And Sumami, I'm wishing the cat well, and you too, because I know you're gonna be, to borrow a stupid phrase, having kittens was a phrase people used to use about people being super anxious. Um, and I don't know why that's an expression. I've never had kittens. I'm allergic to cats, actually, so I'm not gonna have any. But I don't know, Commander. Can you explain why that's an expression?
Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah,
You would
I'd be
tell.
anxious too if I was Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, so you basically put the cat in a box with something radioactive, which is dependent upon quantum processes of decay. So
Yeah.
it's, and you can't observe. I I'm not going to go any further because I'm getting tongue-tied and I work 12-hour days and I don't want to say anything which is untrue.
No,
And I don't
that's
want
fine.
to start
This is
imitating flat earthers.
no. We don't wanna do that. And you know what? I actually, I'm gonna say something, and I'm gonna put Brainless's thing up here. Anyone saying they understand quantum physics, they are lying. So I don't understand quantum physics as a whole. I do understand parts of it. The Schrodinger's cat thought experiment, because no one actually killed a cat. What was a really good. It was a really good experiment. I loved that experiment. Um, because it makes you think about what happens at the quantum level where things are in superposition, and that's really what it gets to. And when something's in superposition, um, what it means is that it has two states. So we could just say, and it doesn't have to be a cat dying.
I
That's a
thought
like the cat's multiple.
superposition was multiple tons of infinite states, and
Yeah,
then it
and that's what
finds
it
a
could have
position.
multiple. It could have multiple states, but when you get, so what it is that it's the particle that you're dealing with can have multiple states, and we could just say it's A and B. It doesn't have to be alive or dead, but look, it's like in this case, it's a binary, and I think it is possible to have a superposition with more than two states. This is why it'd be great to have Dr. Tap come and talk about it. But let's talk about a binary situation. Um, and purple heard cats, and she's jumped right in here. Purple, thank you for coming in with the cat story. For what it's worth, if you never have to put a cat in a box, leave the box open, tell the cat to stay out, and they'll go in and not allow you to remove them. Yes, I think a cat, like transporting the cat's hard, right? But yeah, tell them they're not allowed in there. And they will get in there. The thing with the superposition situation is that when it's in the superposition, it has both states, or the potential for both states. It's a weird thing to say. It's in both states, but once you check, it drops into one or the other. So it's A B in the superposition, and when you check what it is, it drops into either A or B. And so what the Schrodinger's cat thing is that as long as the box is closed and it could be dead. It's either dead or alive, and when you open the box, you'll find out if it's dead or alive, but it's both dead and alive when the box is closed and you can't look at it. That's what they're trying to say. So it's in both states, but it's the Schrodinger's cat thought experiment isn't even the best one to explain this. But there are some great people that have done content on this, and I'm probably not the best person to do it, but I do understand a little bit about what superposition is. And then the other thing that I understand a little bit of is quantum entanglement, which I find a fascinating thing. And this is the thing that Einstein's quoted as having called spooky action at a distance, which apparently he didn't like quantum entanglement. From what I understand, he thought it was weird, and it is weird, but it's been tested by experiment now. And this is something that flirf type people will just deny exists at all. But you can have there's a really simple experiment you can do with like polarizing particles. So only particles that can go through a polarizer in one direction. And if you send two, if one comes out being vertical, the other one will be horizontal. And as soon as you know, even without measuring the other one, and I'm oversimplifying this and going by memory, there's a really good little thing on this. And this is one of the things I'd seen a video like this before, and then I saw it again. It was a different video presented a different way, but it was on brilliant.com. It was great because it showed you what was going on and it asked you questions to make sure you understood what disentanglement meant and what the entailments were of it. But I also want to say that Grayson Hawk has a tremendous video on his channel about quantum entanglement. And since we've made it from weight loss scams to quantum entanglement, which means it was an Al Trucker show through and through. Commander, what would you like to say to end off the show here?
Just everyone have a great day, and I'm going to either this week or next week. I'm coming out with a video explaining batshit squared. If you
All
want to
right.
know what batshit squared is, it's when you take craziness from one religion and you amplify it with craziness from another religion, and you get the insanity that we are living in. I'm making the video to illustrate that. Well, can I just really quick give an example of the influence, because I think there's some creepy Russian shit going on. Okay,
Okay.
in the book of Revelation, right?
This isn't conspiratorial at
It's
all, is it?
basic. mm,
I'm just
well, I
I'm
have
just
evidence
I'm You have
of
evidence.
of
Yeah. I
I'm just
know, you know what? I don't
that
think
this
we're
is right now a comparative religion thing right
okay.
now. So I'm just doing a comparative thing.
This is so you're going to old scripture to
You
talk about what's happening in Russia now. That's what you're getting at?
no.
Okay.
That there's a religion that's popular amongst people like Alexander Dugin called Theosophy. That
Okay.
basically Madame Blavatsky said her good people, her ascended people, were going to take names, kick ass, and seize power in their end of days, in their eschatology. Well, the eschatology of theosophy is actually infiltrating the Christianity, because, like in Christianity, in the book of Revelations, it says that the AC is supposed to take over the world, that the Christians are going to be persecuted to extinction. But if you listen to the Seven Mountains Dominionists, who always simp for Russia, their eschatology is closer to that of Blavatsky, violent hands-on end times eschatology, where it's almost like the because they're not even paying attention to their own books anymore. So I'm just going
Okay.
to draw a comparison between the creepy Russian religion and the fact that the Christians are not even listening to their own books anymore. And the influence of one religion on the other could explain. It's not an entire explanation for the violent shitheads, because there's always been violent shitheads. But
Yeah.
I think, given all the preachers who are simping for Russia and that they have the same eschatology as the creepy Russian religion, there's some connection. That was the point. Please,
Okay.
probably
Well,
next week, because I got to go down to
we're gonna check
Virginia.
out
I'm
we'll check out
sorry if
your
I bug
video.
you.
No, that hey, Commander, it's always good to hear. Sometimes I think it sounds a little crazy, but there's a lot of crazy shit out there. And we need to we need to give it a listen and see what's going on. And when it comes to religion, I agree with one thing. I agree with 100% is that nobody's following these scriptures perfectly, and the people that try are doing the shittiest job ever. And I don't want to get
And
we'd end up down a rabbit hole, but they keep
I'm
on
not
picking the
claiming,
bad shit, right?
I'm not claiming that either is valid. I'm
Yeah,
just,
yeah. No, you're just
oh,
saying this
this
is
is
what people are doing.
interesting how
Mhm.
it's more like a reporting on what they're doing and how the
Mm.
craziness is unfolding.
Yeah, I get it. You're not saying you should go join this religion because 'cause they've got it right. You're saying, "Look at this crazy shit. It's not necessarily the way we ought to be
Yes.
going," right? Yeah, no, and I get that, and it is interesting that, um, and I like,
I
people
went
should go
into a
check
little
out
bit in the last
this is on
stream.
Deep State, the Deep State channel, right?
Yeah, I went
Yeah,
into it a little bit on the last stream,
okay.
and it was after I got nervous about the Ray stuff, and then we
Mm,
play Ray explaining
yeah.
why Hitler was a bad person. And then I basically say, but you know what's going on today, Ray. Why aren't you listening to 2013, Ray? And then we go
Well,
from there to the connections between all the batshit, because we go into what the Christian nationalist that I show believed, and then I pick it apart, showing that his language and his eschatology actually comes from Blavatsky and Bailey,
alright. Well,
but that's
we're
not
gonna be
as
looking for
in
your
depth.
video, right? Are you I know you were tackling that last weekend, like on it was on Saturday, I think, but and I didn't get to see all of that, so I can go rewatch it. And, you all your stuff's up on your channel still, right? You're not saying you took it down, you tried to change subjects after you realized things were getting a little heavy when you're trying to have a
Well,
light, fun laugh. Some of this stuff it's not funny when you get into the not funny parts, right? And that's
right,
I want to let you say more about it, but I am trying to wrap up, so I'm trying to not get too far in the rabbit hole. But when people use the parts of a religion or a thinking, and they twist them up to give themselves the permission to be shitty, because you're right, people have been shitty with and without religion. It's not the religion that makes people shitty, but some people use the religion to join people together to otherize people that aren't in it, and then make it okay, like, and use things from the Bible and other scriptures to say, hey, we're on this team, they're on that team, and make them, subhuman or other things like that. And when it comes to the types of wars and atrocities going on, perpetrated, and I'm a little biased, but I don't have a tremendous background knowledge on world politics to say exactly what's going on, but I'm inclined to be more pro Ukraine and not pro Russia, but I also realize there's a lot of like regular people living in Russia that are not having a good time too. Like I think the problem with all conflict, whether it's religiously bent or not, and I think religion isn't so much the cause as just a tool. um, it really bothers me that regular good working people who are just trying to provide for their families, are having to flee their homes, run for their lives, try to flee their home country. And it's not, I don't think either side is a good one. And I also feel like, you said, what's the difference between Ray in
well, with the
2013 and now,
Ukraine,
right? Go ahead.
well, what the difference between Ray back then is that that thing that he was doing was originally just like a little, it was like a heck piece actually, on Obama's faith, but very veiled. But it
Okay.
works today in the opposite direction. And as far as Russia goes, yeah, there are people in Russia who aren't cool with it, but most of them have been mind fucked. And there's a
Mm,
dude in in the punk apostate server. His family, he's dodging the draft in Russia, and he says his
yeah.
whole family is mind fucked. That
It
it's like not
Yeah.
a it's basically there's very little free thinking when, well, when I was involved with the shells.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into internal negative shill stuff,
No, that you know
but
what?
I was
We don't need to have any
oh,
sort of weird fighting. But you were
well, I'm
they had
not going to fight.
contact,
I'm
right?
not going to fight. I'm just
No,
going to
no,
say
that's fine. So,
that there was someone who worked as a translator in Russia,
mhm.
and she said that the Russians have their own thoughts, but not their own minds. And that's a result of propaganda absolutely everywhere. So, yeah, they're
Yeah.
victims, but they're also perpetrators. And they're victims who will happily victimize you. So it's
Yeah, and
like not
that's
a.
important. That's an important point. Yeah. And are we like, we need to also be mindful of what the media here does to us. We were watching on BSS, and I'm gonna wrap it up with this thought here. And thank you very much, Commander, for coming on and sharing your thoughts and opinions on things. I appreciate it. Um, and it gives us food for thought. And when we think about what we're told that everyone in Russia is being fed propaganda all the time, and I have no reason to doubt that. And I don't see any reason why Russia should be invading and taking over a sovereign country like Ukraine. And the but isn't about that. The but is about how we receive information. So last night on BSS, they were doing this video. They were going through this video, and you can, if you didn't catch it, rewatch it. It was a pretty funny show. They were having fun with it. But Tucker Carlson is talking about how fucked up the media is, and this guy was basically saying, "Well, like Tucker Carlson's a fucking genius, and he's got it all figured out. And check this out." Because it wasn't even like a direct one. It was like and so I don't know how much of it was edited or whatever, but I think it was pretty much this guy just commenting on the video, going through it. And then they had their guest on, Nick, I think the guy's name is. I didn't really know his content much, but I'd seen him once or twice. I'll check him out some more. But yeah, the guy they had on was taking some of this kind of seriously, because there's some serious shit in there. But one of the things that Tucker Carlson was saying is, like, your media is twisting around everything. And, people are telling you what they want you to know, and they don't want you to know anything other than that. And that's a scary thought about what, like, journalism should be something we can trust, reporting and everything that goes with it. But when you hear about a story you're directly aware of, the media never gets it quite right. They say things that are a little bit mixed up because they'd rather say something than nothing. They don't want dead air, so they'll say things that are speculative. They'll say things that are like, we heard this might be the case. Like, there's been situations where, like, I've known about, like, something going on. Like, there's a fire a block away from where I live, and I know where it is and what's going on. And you hear on the radio the reporters talking about it. You could tell they're 3 blocks away and they heard somebody talk about it and they're reporting on it. And I think there's a word for that. When you realize that you have to take everything with a grain of salt when you know about it, but you forget that when you're hearing about something you don't have that same information about. And that's, I mean, we need to take everything with a grain of salt. We need to be skeptical and cynical to a point, but we also need to, like, make sure that we get the real information. So we don't want to block out good information in our search for not having bad information infiltrate our minds. And that's a hard thing to do.
I just don't listen to Tucker.
Yeah, I wouldn't listen to him
Because,
either.
you know,
It
like,
can be funny to laugh at him. And I just, you know what? I wouldn't go sunbathing with that guy. That's one of my tips. If you're sunbathing, don't go with Tucker. He's got some very strange ideas. All right, well, Commander, thank you, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you around. I know you're frequently a guest over at Slim's, where I am frequently also a guest, and we have a lot of fun over there. Slim is having today. Holy fuck. What the fuck was Slim Cyborg? Planet Peterson versus Ken Hovind. And I've listened to some of that. It's live in 2 hours. And well, Slim probably let us both come on and say shit about that if we're around. So, and if not, other people will be there. And Slim and Brainless are usually there. Dog is usually there. And I also want to do a shout out to our friend Glover Mom, who's recovering from surgery, and I hope she's doing all right. I haven't heard from her in a few days, so definitely be checking in with her at some point after I have a rest or something. All right, Commander, thank you everybody in the chat. I'm gonna say goodbye. I've been doing this for an hour and 45 minutes, so only like about 45 minutes longer than I planned on, and that's the way it goes. That's what happens when Al Trucker gets going. And Commander, you're not much better. You got a lot to say, but we appreciate it. We appreciate all your thoughts and opinions and the chance to learn something new and think about things from a different point of view too. Because you're, 8 billion people in the world. You can only look at it from behind your two eyeballs if you're lucky enough to have your sight. But I also mean that sort of figuratively too. You gotta, whatever you see, whatever you hear, that grain of salt's important, but also try to find some truth, but find it in a healthy way. Don't my tips are don't sunbathe with Tucker Carlson. Don't listen to anything that has truth in its title. And don't send your money to something you haven't checked out. And we'll end it with that. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Apparently, I don't know how to click up.